Good morning and welcome to this session devoted to how can Europe project its power. And we are going to be talking economic power, but inevitably economic power today is also geopolitical power. In order to do that, I have a great panelist which together will help us unpack these vast issues. Many of Europe's economic challenges, from accessing critical raw materials to protecting and promoting the enormous wealth of its industrial capacity, to ending war in the continent, to decarbonating its energy, to extending the network of trade alliances around the world, they cannot be done without a strategic integration of all the strands of foreign economic policy. So this is the conversation today. How do we integrate all these strands? Where are the pluses? Where are the risks? And how can Europe project this power that it has? We haven't heard a lot about this power in this week in Davos, but this power is there, so this is what we will try to unpack in this session. My name is Arantxa González. I'm the Dean of the Paris School of International Affairs in Sciences Po. Let me begin the conversation with Commissioner Maroš Šefčovič. Maroš, you've been in this job for over 15 years. You are the longest serving European Commissioner. You've seen the ups and the downs. You are now at the heart of this projection of Europe's foreign economic capacities, weaving together trade, economic security.
Customs,
very important, the back office of international trade. So, Maroš, seen from where you are, what's the direction of travel from the European Union to expand its trade and investment power?
Of course, we go through quite complicated period in the world, and I think we heard a lot of criticism about Europe over the last couple of days, but at the same time we all know that there are many countries who would trade the place with us. So let's be not so downbeat about Europe. We are biggest trading bloc with the high social standards, with enormous power of our consumers, and with a huge potential in the skills and research and innovation. And of course, we are also a unique entity where 27 member states are working together. As you said, there are the moments where we are more up, where we are a little bit down. What I would say it's very important to tell our audience, I would say this morning, that the European leaders got the message. We need to be much more competitive. We need to cut the red tape. And of course, we need to focus much more attention to the, I would say, economies of the future, to the technologies of the future, if we want to be carbon neutral, if we want to remain, I would say, very important actor on the international global scene. And I have to say that in my new role of Trade and Economic Security Commissioner in the 1st of December, what I have seen is this, I would say, unparalleled increase of the interest of our partners in striking free trade agreements. There is clearly the momentum with our partners who sees in Europe partner who is transparent, predictable, who respects the rule of law, who respects the agreement, and who wants to work on the mutual advantageous positions. We are not the partner who wants to extract and export. We want to come, invest, build, create the value added on the spot, and share the results of our common work. So what has happened since we started in this new mandate? We managed to conclude difficult negotiations with our Mercosur partners, with Mexico, with the country we are currently in, Switzerland, and we are working very hard to advance negotiations with India, Malaysia. I just had the meeting with both trade ministers the last week, and I have, if you would see my diary here in Davos, so it's all GCC countries, many countries from Southeast Asia, and I see that this is kind of calling card. This is the visit business card of Europe, that there is huge interest in the biggest trading bloc, in what Europe represents in this very fragmented and tumultuous world, to be a solid partner. And I think that we, of course, have to take it into our advantage. So I think where we clearly need to do more, we have to focus our energy on being strong in the technologies of the future, how to make sure that we do not outsource the development, that we made them in Europe, that we will have critical raw materials which we need for them, that we will also have access to the critical technologies like the chips, because we learned the lessons, for example, from, I would say, this very unfortunate COVID period, where we realized that we probably outsourced too much of the strategic production abroad, and we've been really missing in the moment when the supply chains been not able to perform. And then, of course, we have to be very much focused how to fine-tune all our systems from the education through the research and innovation to be faster, not to have only startups, but the scale-ups, and we need to adjust our competition policy. And I think my new colleague, Teresa Rivera, is working just about that. And one point to close my introductory remarks, we are clearly now going through the period where I would say all traditional approaches to negotiations, to partnerships would be tested, and therefore I open every meeting with my colleagues, fellow ministers in the EU, and I end every single meeting with a clear call for European unity. When we are united, there is nothing we cannot do together, and we always arrive at best solutions if Europe is united. And that's the feeling what I get from all recent European Council. If you're talking about the future, strategic autonomy, strategic independence, and all these very important areas, that's the message we feel we're getting from the EU leaders, who are absolutely determined to increase competitiveness and the position of Europe in the world.
Thank you. So what we hear from you is a strategic interdependence in Europe means two things: unity and alliances with other countries centered around trade and investment. Let me move now to the Prime Minister of the Republic of Armenia. Prime Minister, of course, Europe is more than the European Union, is wider, is made of countries and alliances with other countries centered around trade and investment. Let me move now to the Prime Minister of the Republic of Armenia. Prime Minister, of course, Europe is more than the European Union, is wider, is made of countries that want to become members of the European Union, like is the case of Armenia, is made also of other countries that don't want to join the European Union, like Switzerland or Norway, but still want closer ties with the European Union, probably because they feel maybe outside is a bit cold. So you have recently tabled a bill to initiate the accession negotiations with the European Union. Tell us a little bit what this discussion means for a country like Armenia.
Yeah, thank you very much. In reality, there was an initiative by the civil society, and they presented a draft law on the starting of the process of accession of Armenia to the European Union. And our government endorsed that, and there is a very high probability that our parliament would adopt that law. That would mean legally that we start the process of getting more and more closer to European Union. Why we want to be closer to European Union? Because we are democracy. When you are democracy, you want to be closer or in mainstream of democracy, because otherwise it would be illogical. Now we work very closely with European Union, and to be honest, during last years, the tremendous changes and improvements happened in our relations with the European Union. For example, we just started the negotiations on visa liberalization agreement, which was in our agenda for long years, but we weren't able to start even the negotiations, and I hope that we will be able to end it and sign it as soon as possible. Now Armenia is included in the program of European Peace Facility, which is also very important. We have now a European monitoring mission, civilian mission in our country, which is also very important. We are in the process of implementation of a comprehensive and enhanced partnership agreement with the European Union. And we are working very closely. As far as economic ties are concerned, of course, we want to be closer to European Union economically as well. But from the other side, we don't want we want to be closer in terms of economy in our regional countries as well. Because unfortunately, from beginning of our independence, we were kind of in economic isolation, because our borders with Turkey and Azerbaijan were and are closed. And so to make change not only in our region but globally in terms of overcoming these supply chain shocks, we put on the table our proposal of our project of Crossroads of Peace, which I hope is familiar to you. And it is about the making our regional transportation, communication more effective, and to create new transport communications, not only with Azerbaijan, but with Turkey as well, to deepen our cooperation with Iran, with Georgia. And it is also about the European Union, because if when this project will be implemented, we will have new chain routes through Armenia for European Union. And you know, it isn't just matter of economy. It is also very important security factor, because you just mentioned interdependence as a very important factor for overall stability and security. But of course, this project will work in case or when we will be able to create sustainable peace with Azerbaijan, which unfortunately isn't the case now. We are working usually, and it is very important. Now we need to be able to establish diplomatic relations with Turkey, and we are working on this topic as well. Usually people are asking whether I'm optimistic or pessimistic on this matter. I should say that I'm not optimistic and nor pessimistic. I'm pragmatic. I just understand that we need to work until the task is solved. The main and I think most important thing, not to be derailed from peace agenda. We need to concentrate it on the goal and to continue to work without giving up, without being frustrated. And but in this case, in that way, of course, we need to have support of international community, and I hope that this support will be delivered.
Thank you, Prime Minister. I mean, you're reminding me of what my former boss in the European Commission, Jacques Delors, used to say. You don't have to choose between being an optimist or a pessimist. You have to choose to be activist.
Yeah.
So what you've put on the table in this concept of strategic interdependence is the enlargement dimension, enlargement of the European Union, but also the security and stability of the wider region that to the east of Europe, that matters a lot also for projecting Europe's power. Let me now move to Ilham Kadri. Ilham Kadri, you are the CEO of what is now known as Syensqo. People know the old name, Solvay. But you're also the president of the European chemicals industry. So I want to ask you, you've been at the heart of the efforts to look at what Europe needs to do to improve its competitiveness, the so-called Draghi report, the efforts at integrating more the European market, the Letta report. What do you need Europe to do now to improve the competitiveness of the European industry that is our powerhouse?
So first of all, well, thank you for having me. I must say I'm an optimist, because since the beginning of Davos, competitiveness is back in the agenda. With Ms. President Ursula von der Leyen, Mr. Commissioner, there was not one meeting where people didn't talk about competitiveness. So that's number one. I think to talk about the power of Europe is about having a strong economy. And strong economy means a strong industry, and strong industry means a strong chemical industry. And obviously, I'm representing today the chemical industry. A year ago, in February, we gathered with 73 global CEOs representing the chemical industry around Ursula von der Leyen, and we handed over the Antwerp Declaration with 10 points around how to restore competitiveness and trust with the private sector. Meanwhile, we are happy because the Draghi's report, Letta's reports, they include those 10 points. So, first of all, I think there is a big need of regulatory, simplification. So happy to hear that there is now a target to simplify, to move the red tapes. Let me give you an example. In the chemical industry, since I moved to Europe back in 2019, there was 14,000 pages of regulation published just for the chemical industry. I'm hiring more people in the legal and compliance departments than in my innovation departments, okay? So Europe and the chemical industry is extremely regulated, and we like regulation, but now it's a burden, specifically for the small and medium-sized companies who cannot handle it, right? And when we get into the soup of alphabets of reporting, CSRD, CSSS, taxonomy, etc., we see that our small and medium-sized companies cannot deal with, and therefore we are destroying the fabric of the industry, the chemical industry in Europe. So we are calling to really simplify, simplify, simplify. We are calling it to move in those red tapes, right? Which will mean efficiency, more investments, right? Because as an industry, as a business person, I need transparency and predictability. The second thing in the regulatory, we need cohesion. You talked about Delors. Delors' vision of single markets.
Yeah.
There is no single market today in Europe. We need these single markets. We need it from the demand, because when I put a plant in France or in Italy or in Belgium, it's at the service of the whole European demand. I need that demand. We need to create that demand around clean technologies, which the Green Deal has been pushing us to really work on, right? We need cohesion in the chemical management, for example, framework, right? We need that single market, and we need it badly in terms of demand, in terms of cohesion, in terms of flow of goods between. So we need unity in a way, not uniformity. We know Europe is different culture, but we need unity, and probably this 28 regime, you know, above and beyond the 20 member of states in some strategic value chains. And I'm talking about electrification, I'm talking about defense, I'm talking about semiconductors. There is no EV in the world, there will be no semiconductor without a strong chemical industry. And to give you another data point, the chemical industry in Europe lost 11% market share in the past 15 years. Europe was number one, now it's number two. For China, who gained 9%, so it's number one, 44% of the production output is coming from China, and it will become 2/3 of the world production by 2030. And obviously, when I say cohesion, is a level playing field. We like competition. I mean, I've been 30 years in the industry. Competition is good. It fuels innovation, etc. But we need a level playing field, right? When the good players are doing the right thing in Europe, we need that level playing field against imports. The last one is about regulatory recognition. When you do all of this, where is the recognition? And recognition, don't put me wrong, it's not about subsidies and money. We have enough. I think what I'm talking about is that capital union, which Ms. President talked about that, and I think it's in the heart of the discussion of the new EU Commission members. So we need that capital union. We need that liquidity in Europe. We need to promote those investments, right, against very strong USA and, you know, state economy in China. So all in all, I think I'm not going to talk about energy. Patrick is going to do it better than me, because, you know, without energy we are nobody. Correct. So we need that affordability and availability and resilience. But definitely, to finish with, is about innovation. Europe has been the land of innovation. The chemical industry started in Europe. We have skills, we have talents, we have breakthrough innovation at the service of sustainability and carbon neutrality. So we need to promote them. We need demand, starting with public procurements. Because, you know, when you talk about sustainable solution, we need premium pricing as well. So where it is, we need that support from the authorities. So we cannot do it alone. That's private-public partnership at the service of the industry in Europe is so critical. And I will finish with people. I think we cannot manage all of this without tackling inequalities. Remember what's happening in France, the yellow vests. I care about the end of the month, not the end of the world, right? So that inequality, taking care about people. And Europe is 450 million consumers. Europe is ingenuity, you know. The best talents in our companies are in Europe, actually, right? So I think we need now to really focus on people and people and people as well.
Thank you very much, Ilham. So European strategic interdependence means strengthening, from your point of view, the competitiveness of the European industry with a host of suggestions that you've tabled and focusing more on people. Let me now move to Patrick Pouyanné, CEO of Total Energy. He's a global player, one of the major global players in the energy sector. A lot of what we've heard would not be possible without affordable, secure reliable energy sources. And combining this with the green agenda that Europe has placed at the heart of its competitive model. So can we do it in Europe? What do we need to do to get there?
Yeah, reliable, affordable, and sustainable energy. That's a triangle that we are targeting, all of us. And again, the topic today is very important. Yes, of course, Total Europe is a big power, 450 million consumers. It's fundamental today because we are in a world where you have the US, and US with Donald Trump will be even a strong force. We have China, and in the middle, we are there. And there is only one way, which was already mentioned, is unity. We need to express it by unity. If we are together, which means that Europe is above our national interests, then we have a chance to find a way. And I strongly believe in the values of Europe. I think we have this legacy, and we are somewhere a lighthouse in the planet. We should not lose it. And this is the debate today, in fact, of do we combine our green agenda or will to go further with other parts of the world, which are maybe going slower than us, but which are also more powerful somewhere. And the power of Europe will go for its economy. The difficulty we face, for me, is the result of a construction of Europe centered around consumers, fundamentally. The consumers have been for 50 years. We have protected the consumers, and somewhere, very strangely, at the expense of our own industries, And that's something fundamental because in the energy field, coming to energy, we require now huge capital investments to transform. It's an incredible journey we have in front. So we need requirements, we require capital. And we need to optimize this capital. This is two conditions for me. More capital requires European champions. And it's true for energy, it's true for digital, it's true for banking. And there is something we did not manage to do until now. Even if I am one of the European champions, some in France consider I am a French champion. I'm more than that. I'm a global company. I'm in my mission statement, we have security of supply to Europe. And after the Ukraine war, I dedicated my year 2022 to supply gas to Europe, mobilizing all what I could to supply LNG to Europe, to bring new LNG floating units. So I consider we are part of it. But we need European champions. And why today in digital we don't have it? Why in banking? The largest bank in Europe, $80 billion market cap. It's nothing compared to the larger. And in these worlds of giants, look to what happened. So there is something I'm calling really, if you want a power in Europe, you need to revisit completely the way we apply these competition rules. It's not a matter to protect. We protect the European consumers if we have champions in Europe. I can tell you the best way, because we will be more efficient. It's true in energy, it's true in digital, it's true in finance. This needs a reset from our European leaders. The second thing for energy is integration. Mm-hmm. If I want to deploy all the trillions, billions of dollars I have to integrate, and I'm reading a sentence of the Letta report, the more the EU advances towards a decarbonized energy system, the greater is the need for market integration. And it's a difficulty because, in fact, we all agree we have a European climate policy, but the energy is not, it's not unified. It's impossible, to be honest, to put into action pragmatically a climate agenda if you are not integrated with energy or policies. And today it's considered at a national level. Each country has its own strategy or policy. Of course, security of supply is important, but we can ensure the security of supply of Europe. By the way, after the Ukrainian war, what happens for the gas in Europe? We had to mobilize all the entry points of our gas in Europe, creating entry points in Germany, France. Gas is liquid, gas is going through the networks. And so that means that thinking to that is fundamental, because if we want to find again back a competitiveness of electricity, in particular energy provided in Europe, if you think it in 27, 28, 30 countries, you split the efficiency of your capital allocation. We need to think about it. I was thinking to plan grids investments. Mm. If you do it at a national level, or if you do it at Brussels only in interconnections, these are inefficient. We need to solve it. We need to invest some countries want to invest in nuclear. Okay, let's invest in nuclear, but it's for the benefit of everybody. Over the wind, it's obvious for me that when my teams are coming to me to invest in solar plants in Sweden, I say, we are dreaming. What do we do? But the solar should be in Spain. I mean, and the wind in the north of Germany is quite obvious to everybody for common sense, people in the street. But today, each country wants to have its own agenda, and that's something. Integration is fundamental. It's the only way to come back to competitiveness of our energy in Europe is the integration to optimize the allocation. We need to think together and not to go. So sometimes I'm surprised, the leaders in Europe, when you have the European Council, they all agree Europe is first, and then back to national interests. I know that there is politically a debate in each of our countries, but if we want power of Europe, it's going through integration and unity. That's a strong message. And champions, again, when I'm in front of a commissioner, there is another thing. You know, today we have done an incredible progressive agenda with the Green Deal. And Total Energies have engaged my company in a transformation. I can tell you, I'm spending 30% of my investments in renewables and electricity. Nobody would have I would not have believed that 5 years ago. Next year, in 25, 10% of the energy produced will be electricity, green electricity, 10%. I'm a very large company, it's a big step. But I need to be, the agenda is not really protecting the European industry, the green agenda. We need to reconcile the objective and the green industry. I will take one example. We want all to produce sustainable aviation fuel. You have a requirement to increase sustainable aviation fuels. Today, I'm investing in plants in Europe to produce biorefineries to produce this stuff. But I see imports of SAF coming from China at a cost which is much lower what I can produce in Europe. I'm not protected. So if you want a power industry or Europe, we need now to reconcile the green agenda and to protect our industry. The US have done it under Biden. The IRA was blessed by everybody, but you know, in the IRA was super powerful. Solar panels, I'm a big investor in solar in the US. I'm obliged to use, if I want to have the IRA fiscal incentive, I'm obliged to take solar panels manufacturers in the US. Absolutely. They have reshored all their solar panels industry. In Europe, I was investing in solar panels 10 years ago. I lost everything completely open. So I think power in Europe means an industry in Europe. You cannot make, it's a huge opportunity that you are offering us with this Green Deal, but at least these products, if we want to, we should recognize that manufacturing all that in Europe, because energy is a little more expensive, wages and salaries are a little more expensive because we have our social model that we are proud of, we must find a way to protect it. And that means giving, for me, a preference to European products. How do we give a preference to European products? The US are doing, the Chinese are doing it. The Chinese, you know, they have created this powerful green industry because they have a huge market, and during 10 years, we were in advance on us. So what I would like to see is really acting, not just speech about it. Find a way, and then we have European companies who are able to, I can produce stuff in my biorefineries, but if suddenly I discover that you can import from green SAF from China, which I would like to be sure is the same standards, I cannot fight against it. And why do we import SAF from China? Just to circle it. Because the airline companies, aviation is complaining that SAF are too expensive, and so again, because we give the preference to consumers. So the real debate, if we want powerful industry in Europe, is to arbitrate. Yes, consumers are important, but the jobs, the industries, and the purchasing power of consumer is coming from us. And so we cannot, so it's what I hope. I know that there will be a zero, I don't know how you call it, next communication of the process. I hope we will see that. But it's time to wake up together and to do it, and not just to speak.
Thank you, that was clear. It was unity and scale through integration. These are two powerful messages. We have only 10 minutes left. So we are going to, I want to go very shortly around the table. And I want to start with you, Maros. The US has been mentioned, finally. Are you thinking of, or what would you need to change in the trade policy of the EU to face a more aggressive Trump administration?
I think, of course, this would be, I would say, the topic definitely for this year, how to, I would say, set up this new relationship with the US. And first and foremost, we want to talk to our American partners. I think that we have to keep our cool here because I think the best negotiations are done in the room, not through the media. I think if I look at the overall figures, we had a chance to discuss it yesterday. It's true that we have surplus in trade in goods, but US has quite significant surplus in services. So if we take both, and I think in every trade conversations, both goods and services are always taken together. So we are talking about the trade deficit of around 50 billion euros. And if you compare it with the overall trade volume of 1.6 trillion euros, I think this is putting it to the perspective that we should be able to solve this problem very, very quickly. That would be, of course, my intention, and I think that we should also bear in mind the fact that we have huge interdependencies. I mean, there is 5 trillion of mutual investments, mutual assets. By the way, 2/3 of American assets in Europe, and every year almost 300 billion euros is flowing from Europe, from our pension funds, from our savings accounts to invest in American companies. So this just proves that this is mutually very advantageous relationship. I call it artery of the global trade. So we should be very careful how we play with that, because the fact that this represents almost 40% of the GDP in trade, it just shows that what kind of shock effect it might have on the whole world. And therefore, we want to be very careful how to address these things. We will be ready to negotiate, and I believe that we will find the good solutions. But the answer of the European strength, and I agree with you, Arantxa, with Patrick, and with Ilham, that strength of Europe was traditional in our economy, in our industry. We've been very competitive, we've been good traders, and indeed, over the last year, we, I think, didn't factor in these transformational processes on the global scale. So we've been always looking at the mergers and acquisition policies from the perspective of the size of European economy, and we somehow neglected a little bit the fact that if you are a big company, I mean, the world is much bigger market, and simply you have to be strong not only in Europe but also on the global market. And therefore, if you look at the number of the European companies in the top 100 from, let's say, 2010 and 2024, I mean, the numbers are much smaller now, and I think this is kind of reflected in the mood which we feel that we need to do better. So I think we need to negotiate fairly with the US. We have to be very clear towards China that we will fight tooth and nail for our industry, that we will not allow photovoltaic story to happen again, where our innovation was just completely destroyed by the state-sponsored overcapacities of China, and that simply we cannot pay by the Chinese jobs by the sacrificing European jobs. And I think this has to be very, very well understood. It would not be easy to achieve, but I think this moment we are at the time where I think we will have to see the big rebalancings of the global economy, global trade, and we have to do our utmost that Europe will be one of the principal players in this debate.
Thank you, Prime Minister. The moment we're living in is a geopolitical one where every player will want others to take sides. And you will be one of those that everyone will say, you know, you have to be with me, and if you're not with me, you're against me. And there is the US, and obviously there is China, and obviously in your neighborhood there are other players too. There is Russia, there is the Gulf countries, there is Europe. So how will you navigate this?
You know, that's why we decided to adopt balanced and balancing foreign policy, which means that we will try to create a balance between our different relations with the European Union, in our relations with Russia, with our regional powers, very important, our relations with Iran. And I mentioned already we are trying to establish diplomatic relations with Turkey. We are trying to reach to a peace deal with Azerbaijan. And of course, it isn't easy. But from the other side, I don't think it is impossible. Because it could seem kind of strange. But really, we are suspiciously transparent with all our international partners in our intentions. We are sharing with all partners what we are doing with other partners. What you mentioned our decision to get closer to European Union, but we are trying very intensively to share our position with Iran. We are trying to share very actively our position in Russia and with all our partners, because after all, Armenia is an independent country, and in these challenging times, of course, there are many challenges and many threats. But from the other side, it is a huge time of changes. Definitely and obviously, the times of changes bring huge threats. But from the other side, huge opportunities emerge, and we are trying to manage threats and to use opportunities. And that is, I think, only pragmatic way to go forward, but not forgetting about balances. Because to lose balance could bring very heavy consequences for security, for stability, not only in terms of a country, but in terms of region and in terms of global stability. Because when we say and we pose that task to be as interdependent as it's possible, but from the other side, in this situation, any instability in any region of world could start a chain process worldwide, even in the small countries, small regions, etc. And that's why I think to be balanced and to not to forget about this task, balancing in a daily basis, it is most important thing, I think.
Thank you very much. We wish we had more time, but we've come to the end of this session. Let me take one takeaway from this discussion, and I'm going to be quoting Patrick Pouyanné. I hope he allows me to use his intellectual property. We've heard there is an EU brand of capitalism with values. And we want this EU brand of capitalism with values. But we need two things to make this be the model that others like. Reform it to make the European Union economically stronger and strengthen alliances with neighbors and beyond to build our own resilience. Thank you very much. Let me thank Prime Minister of Armenia, Nikol Pashinyan. Let me thank EU Commissioner Maroš Šefčovič, Ilham Kadri, Patrick Pouyanné. It's been a pleasure. Thank you to all of those watching. Hope to see you soon.